Thank you for staying with Daybreak. We're about to get into that conversation on the CBC, and we asked you earlier on, do you understand as a parent? Do you know a parent who has a child who's undergoing this pilot phase? And what are your concerns with the CBC? Or if it is okay with you, just tell us that it is one of the best programs that you've ever interacted with. We'd just like to know what your sentiments are regarding the CBC. 22422 is the SMS line. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, and Waiga Mwaura at Zinzi K. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We'll sample some of your views during this broadcast. Let's introduce our guest real quick, beginning from my immediate left, Amos Kamuru. Thank you so much for coming in. He's an education consultant, followed by Mudhoni Ouko. Also, some of people we know as Janet Mudhoni Ouko, education consultant as well. Thank you so much for coming in. And a man who needs no introduction, Honorable Wilson Sosion, NAT Secretary General, also here. Asante for coming in. We're waiting for Boaz Waruku, who's a governance reform and advocacy expert.
That's correct. He'll be with us shortly to join us for this discussion. But before we get into matters of education, there's a story on the front page of the Daily Nation that I'm sure by now has caught the attention of Kenyans. And the picture there is of, I believe that's American singer, songwriter Dolly Parton. What does she have to do with matters parliament? Well, the scandal of MPs on a gravy train to the US is how the Daily Nation has captured this story. Parliament is this week spending tens of millions of shillings to pay for flights and accommodation of a delegation of 85 legislators and members of staff. Apparently the largest in the world to attend a dubious... I don't know how they define dubious legislative assembly in Nashville, Tennessee, at a time when the government is cutting down on foreign travel. Obviously, you've seen that title then. If we can scroll down a little, is this a pictogram? Yeah. Just showing daily allowances that the different members will receive, the cost of the hotel, the daily subsistence allowance for a member of county assembly, the cost of a flying business class ticket on KQ from Nairobi to New York, and a bit of the program at the bottom as well. Yeah,
there's going to be American singer and songwriter Dolly Parton there who's going to be speaking. There's going to sample some country music, learning how to put politically trying times into historical context. Okay. Discussions on misinformation in the 21st century and how to come up with an imaginary library by donating books, and how to be a transformational leader.
But that's not all. There's another one. Another training of government officials from 21 Kenyan counties has been going on in Arizona and Washington, D.C. as well. We're laughing because we don't know what to say, quite frankly. If even a quarter of these allegations are true, it is worrying, you know, if the numbers are true. But Honorable Sosion is here with us. Are you traveling this week? By any chance?
If I'm slotted to travel, yes, definitely I would travel. But I think this has been exaggerated to look like Parliament is very wasteful, it's wasting taxpayers' money. I would like to state the importance of a National Assembly in legislation and in terms of capacity building. Part of these international travels are not holiday travels. These are working visits and working programs, and it goes a long way in strengthening up our parliamentary system. Kenyans should appreciate that Kenya is one of the best democracies we have in Africa and in the world, and this is courtesy to Parliament, and therefore this travel should not be exaggerated, even in terms of figures look like it's wasteful. Ordinarily, the budget of the National Assembly for international travels is there. It's provided for, and such activities are designed, they're programmed. So it's wrong to demonize. The budget is there. It's wrong to demonize the National Assembly as if they've gone on a swimming tour in the US. It is a working visit, and all institutions are entitled to this. And this is in the best interest of the National Assembly, the legislature, a strong arm of government, and it is in the best interest of the country. So I don't think it's right for media all the time to portray parliamentarians as wasting public resources, and how much from from the tax. You calculate, you do the budgeting in terms of how much is paid.
So Sion, the question here is that, is it necessary at this particular time when everybody is we're trying to tighten our belts? You say that yes, there's a budget for it, but is it necessary? Information is available online.
Any money that is budgeted for an activity and
research on without traveling.
Let me tell you one thing. Funds follow programs. And if funds have been allocated for programs that are designed and are to be executed, then they must be executed. So I think it is wrong to demonize. What is going on here is demonizing Parliament. And I think it would be good to scrutinize who has traveled, what are they doing, are they swimming in the beaches of the US, or they are in serious engagements on behalf of the people of Kenya who have elected them. I think this demonization of the National Assembly should come to an end. We must get things right in proper perspective.
Away from
the National Assembly has not set aside this money for wastage. It is the programs of Parliament are clear and is accountable. It is open. It is known who goes where, who does what, and reports are tabled in Parliament.
So when other countries, especially countries with larger populations, send fewer representatives, is it that we are in such dire need of training?
Are we so far back in terms of our training? We are a sovereign and independent country, and we are free to plan our programs and engage in any programs in the best interest of the country. So that is why if you look at the level of democracy in Kenya, it's so high. It's very progressive. And this is courtesy of the National Assembly. Look at the history of the National Assembly. We are in the 12th Parliament. All the parliaments that have been existing since independence have indeed been very vibrant in terms of legislation, in terms of opening democratic space, in terms of giving capacity to its members of Parliament. I have been there very briefly, and I really, really admire the history, the working system, the openness, the unity in the House. It is what this country needs. So those who are outside Parliament cannot just wake up and demonize parliamentarians. Of course.
The rest of Kenyans are the ones outside. But including two next to let's hear what they have to say.
Kenyans have elected their parliamentarians, and their parliamentarians are executing their duties for 5 years. And Kenyans will go back to parliamentarians, to the people again after 5 years.
Right.
This is good for the progress of this country and progress of democracy.
Janet, what do you make of this travel?
Well, let me say that I might not have a lot of capacity, especially in parliamentary matters, because I have not been a member of parliament, so my ignorance will be forgiven here. But I think, Honorable Sosion, I'm really happy that today you're sitting on this end, because we've sat with you on various forums when this was happening, when you were not a member of parliament, and I know the thoughts that you had, especially looking at the expenditures of parliament vis-a-vis what you, as an advocate, a decorated one for that matter, of the rights of workers, and really looking at where other workers in this country sit and looking at their terms of employment and so many other things. And I think here, it is not lost on us probably what value that will add to Parliament. Maybe there's all this justification, as you say, it is budgeted for. But the strain here is how Kenyans want to say, what value does this add to us? You know, that is the strain. And I know probably that Parliament will come out and relate to us how this will benefit us. But I want to draw your attention to page 5 of the same daily, where the former Prime Minister, Raila himself, is saying that this is wasteful. He has been a member of Parliament. Unlike ourselves, he's held very high offices in this country, and he feels that this is wasteful. And I really think my struggle today, we have had these headlines every now and then, that this is wasteful, that is wasteful. At what point do we see an intervention of saying, hey, look, this is where we want, and not, I saw the other time, I don't know whether it was true or false, that this country is struggling with about 250 million Kenya shillings to upgrade Kenyatta National Hospital. Then when Kenyans wake up to such a headline where we are going to be busting all these millions of money, really, it is not for hate of members of Parliament, but it is just that Kenyans cannot relate considering that the times other people are going through, Kenyans cannot relate. So I don't know what we want to do. I don't know whether we do not want to be receiving open reports about what Parliament is doing with our money, because apparently we are not going to be pleased anytime soon. Yeah. But either maybe they want to revise so that all of us are in tandem. If all of us are struggling, can we see all of us exercising the austerity measures that we are being told to exercise, you know, across board? And I think that will give us a place of harmony.
Yeah, Amos, because we are sending 85 legislators. Nigeria, which has a higher population than us, is only sending 20.
I hope that this will be a Damascus moment, that they will see light and some conversion will take place. That is my only hope. Otherwise,
light
I think
in Tennessee or in Nairobi,
wherever. Okay. I hope, even if it's from the light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully not from an oncoming train, because I'm so much afraid when I hear the way Mheshimiwa puts it and argues that we should spend basically because it is in the budget. I think the people watching me from my house don't eat everything simply because dad bought it and therefore it had already been bought. I think that will be very, very unfortunate for us as a country, just to spend because we had allocated money for such, whereas, as Janet puts it, there are critical issues that we could be addressing. There are, as we speak now, counties are, services are almost grinding to a halt. Not necessarily because of such, but just because there are many things which we could do, even with the 10 million shillings, with the 20 million shillings, the schools that you watched in Kwale, with an additional 20 million, you could have pumped in an additional 20 classrooms. It could make a little bit life better for those. So I think sometimes let's also sacrifice a little immediacy for the altar of permanence, as really opposed to just this immediate gratification, which falls in Sigmund Freud angle called the id, the immediate gratification. I think it can be postponed.
And always, I find it very interesting that you can justify this sort of expenditure, and yet in that perspective you also know there are certain gaps in terms of paying of teachers, in terms of resources in schools. You still don't think, as a legislator now and having been a union official, you still don't think that we have a priority?
I think it's good we get frank here. When it comes to the national budgeting, appropriation is done for all institutions.
Is it done properly
within the country? And once that is done, it's the responsibility of those institutions to end, and appropriation of money is appropriated on the basis of functions and programs. You define your programs and seek resources. That's how it's done. What you should be questioning here, and I agree, Kenya is an open society. We are free to critique, but I think we don't get to the extent of demonizing. Can everybody account what is being done? Can Parliament account what all the Kenyan delegation is doing wherever they are? We need reports on that, and that is always done. And we are very accountable National Assembly. That I can tell you. And so when it comes to prioritization in terms of funding, it's an open process. And I agree, we need to direct more resources to extremely needy areas of the sectors of our economy. Talk for example, education.
What could 100 million
the best? But we cannot focus on the little resources that is allocated to one institution, and we create a big story. It's like they're consuming the entire resources in the economy.
What could 100 million
that would not be right, but sake. I think it's good. It's good for us to reason and debate very openly. Probably we need to look at our budget making process to make it more open, more public participatory, and ensure that we are allocating our resources the way it should be. Okay, that's the truth. The truth is,
for someone who has
there is a lot of wastage. That's a fact. And I don't change. In many sectors of our economy.
Yes.
And of course, we were talking another time about the laptops. 70 billion has been spent. 1 million tablets have been supplied to schools. Half of them are not functional. Teachers, and that is another aspect of wastage.
Yes.
What if that 70 billion was used to hire teachers and avail teachers in the classroom?
Fair enough.
We'll not be talking about the shortage.
Let me ask you this. You say this is a small budget.
We've got a lot of homework
to do. This is a small budget by
as a country.
This is a small.
Across all sectors.
This is a small budget by one institution. they're estimating that it possibly could be up until 100 million. For discussion's sake, what could 100 million do in the education sector right now? How many classrooms could be funded?
Can I just help you with some little data?
Yeah.
When I was CEC for education, 57 million Kenya shillings gave a capitation grant of 3,200 per learner for the 13,000. In fact, there were 23,000 children at ECD for the whole year. So that is in Nairobi County. But I think we being fair to Sosion, because I'm seeing the strain. He doesn't want to appear like he's contradicting his colleagues, and I know he doesn't speak for Parliament. But I think the thing here is
Janet should not speak for me.
I'm seeing the struggle. But I think the strain here is that we also would not want to appear like we want to pass judgment, because remember, this is just one part of the story. You know, this is just one side of the story. It would be very important in terms of accountability for the members of Parliament, who are our representatives in the National Assembly, for them to know what issues are we raising. What we are saying is that we think that this expenditure worries us at the moment, considering that what we think in our naivety, what we think that these resources could probably have done. And then two, the struggle in terms of us finding what is this trip, you know, what is the impact, you know, in our lives, generally in a child that is struggling with cancer in some place. I mean, you know, when you walk to our schools right now and you see the kind of, what is this trip really, what is the relationship? We appreciate the capacity building and everything, but how does that boil down to changing the life of a common citizen? I think that is the struggle. That is the struggle. It's not whether it was budgeted, it's not whether they are going to not spend, because these apparently are the rates. Nobody is going to be paid outside the rate that are provided. So in terms of the framework, yes, we agree, it is okay, but the questions Kenyans are asking, in terms of where we are now, we do not think that this is very prudent expenditure of our resources.
Speaking of Kenyans, hang on, there is a tweet from Simon.
Simon says, if Sosion is defending the wasteful spending because it was programmed, then the salary increase he's fighting for is not allocated until the next year's budget.
Simon
is saying that's the argument you're taking. Let's hear from Amos, then you'll speak.
My greatest fear in terms of planning to scale is that if you were to make all these forms of I don't think we need to sugarcoat this form of irrational and unnecessary and called for trips, because they can be done away with. If you have to do such in one institution, government has more than 150 parastatals. You have got more than 10 commissions. You have got 47 county governments. You have got 20 line ministries with more than 35 state departments. Just try to extrapolate all that. This will explain why we are in the current mess. Because it could be a case of we are now competing. Parliament went. So what will make you stop if the controller of budget approves such? What will stop another institution from doing it? And I think that is important that institutions charged with the responsibility of managing public affairs know that they are exercising stewardship of our resources. It's therefore important that they exercise the prudence concept. And Parliament and many of these institutions are full of people, financial analysts, who understand what the prudence concept is all about. You cannot just spend because you are spending. You must exercise responsibility for the purpose of sustainability. We cannot have a sustainable country if we continue spending as if these resources are infinite.
So, Sion.
Give him a props. We give him a right of reply before we take that break.
When you look at this story, the way it is designed, and you only bring in a musician, as if this contingent of Kenyan delegation has gone to sample music. I think this is bad scripting, and I am sure.
Isn't it a fact, though?
Yeah,
it may be a fact of one of the many things that is happening, but it is happening.
It isn't. I've been on parliamentary trips, and I can tell you for sure, parliamentarians don't have time for leisure and free things. It is business, it is meetings.
You do know we've seen some of their pictures.
So I want to be very frank, and I'll be very candid here. Candid and bold on this one. These are programs that are pre-planned and duties assigned, and there will be reports tabled at the National Assembly.
So why do we need 85 people if Nigeria can only send 20?
So if parliamentarians can execute and do their duties very well, as program,
we need to send more people.
So what is the worry? Why do we make noise? We should only insist on proper accountability by all public institutions.
That's what we're talking about. Why 85 and not even just 5?
It could even be 200. What is wrong if it is 200?
But if Nigeria does 20,
we are not Nigeria. We are not Nigeria. We are Kenya. And the parliament is free. And the parliament will be free to plan itself and to run its own programs.
Mheshimiwa is blaming the media for telling us and giving us a bad script. That if we had changed this one, there will be nothing wrong about it. But maybe the question should be, what value is this trip adding to the Kenyan public?
The value that this trip is adding, and I've given you the historical perspective
and beyond
of the impact of parliament in the development of this country, and particularly the development of democracy and legislation. It has done very well. It is an outstanding parliament all over the world. And therefore, there would be... We cannot compare ourselves. And we cannot...
It's neither here nor there. You would want to receive the report that has ranked our parliament.
Let me tell you, we cannot wake up and benchmark with and compare ourselves with... No.
With Africa's largest economy.
Those are some of the terms that are really been abused. When we talk about
but I think the most worrisome issue here is that the Daily also reports that the country has sent the largest delegation in the world to the conference at a time when the president proposed cuts on foreign travels. So, and I really think for me, why I'm really worried about us spending a lot of time discussing about this is where it just becomes a discussion and nothing changes. Because if really such an institution is contravening the president, then we need, what is the problem? I mean, where is the problem? Who makes these decisions? And you know, where are the controls?
Let me remind you.
I know you will tell me parliament is an independent arm of government.
There is separation of powers.
I know, but that does
the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. It's clear, separation of powers and independent. And of course, the president cannot direct parliament. He may not.
Let me ask you a final question. Final question to you,
and so,
SG.
Parliament is an independent, and it must remain so.
SG, one last question. So you have no concerns about the number.
Yeah, no evil.
Let me hear. Forget about the narrative.
Yes.
You have no concerns about the number, that 20 to 25%.
And I have said very boldly here,
parliament.
Even if they were 200,
it will still be fine to send them.
It will be okay. It's a program. It's an activity of parliament.
Maybe.
And do you want to limit parliamentarians from working? Why are you trying to overregulate?
Yes, Kenyans are limited. They are staring at the services right now. Services coming to our hold next week.
Don't try to put the teachers on a collision course with parliamentarians. Let me tell you.
No. It's not just the teachers. It's Kenya.
It is contextual.
And you know this as the
parliamentarians are doing their work. That I can say. I'll repeat it. And whatever duties that they are assigned, whatever events that they are assigned, they will attend. And let me tell you, Kenyan parliamentarians, in terms of parliamentary programs, in terms of assignment of duties, they execute their mandates extremely well. You've stated.
Okay, let's put it this way. If we suggested that we transfer this 100 million to the Ministry of Education and handle the teachers' issues, would it be okay with you? Would it be better to do that? Let's put it differently. Let's take these resources and reallocate them to either the education.
Let us not argue.
Would it be okay?
Resources have been assigned to parliament.
If we reassign those resources, would it be better?
This one from
district.
Yes. You cannot stifle parliament to do other
It's a yes or no, Honorable. If we reassign these resources to Education Ministry to handle the issues the teachers are facing, would it be better, or would you still pick traveling?
What we are talking about here
would you pick
is
traveling,
the activities, the activity that has been reported
would
here.
Would it be better? I'll repeat this again. If we took these resources, reallocated them to the Ministry of Education so that we handle the teachers' issues, would you pick travel?
Yeah, of course it would be better, Trevor, but I'm sure...
Can you reallocate it right now?
Which one would you pick?
But as long as it has been appropriated to Parliament and it is appropriated to programs, it is wrong to demonize. That is not fair.
That is not fair.
I think the only way to respond to this would be every time those of us charged with the responsibility of planning for public resources, is to ask ourselves, what will be lost if this was not done?
Okay.
What will be lost? Cost? Yes, what will be lost if we didn't go for this trip? That should be the question. And if that one guides us every time, I think we'll be in a position to make fair decisions that are sustainable. Otherwise, this kind of spending
and then the question is, how much wastage goes within the programs of the executive? And within other
it's not a competition to waste. It's not a competition to waste.
All institutions are spending
exactly. It's not a competition to waste. And I think for me, I would be interested in this framework which Honorable Sosion has very comfortably.
I don't think if we want to midwife democracy, fairness and justice, we cannot kill an institution that is vested to do that. One thing I agree with Kenya is that whatever activities, whatever programs that Parliament engages in, it must be accountable to the people. And there is no way an activity of Parliament can be lined up and you travel out of the country and you don't table a report. The reports will be tabled and they're up for public scrutiny. That's what I urge the media.
So Mark is saying...
Where does this fall in the four constitutional functions?
I would probably want to know, is the Honorable Sosion contradicting his party leader? Because the party leader, his own party leader is saying that this is wasteful.
No,
is it? This is wasteful.
I've not talked with my party leader on this, and
he says it is wasteful.
He says it is wasteful.
No. Don't try and put me in collision. It is his own opinion. It's my own opinion as a parliamentarian.
He says it is wasteful. So your position is it is not.
Don't try and look like you're putting me in a collision cause with my party leader, whom I so much respect. He's entitled to his opinion on any issue, in as much as I'm also entitled to my own opinion and in my own right as a parliamentarian. And I think I've stated as such. And that is not war.
I think this is now
me and anybody.
That's right. This is now a good place to take a break. Trevor, you had something you wanted to read?
Yeah, Dr. Marco Joke says Sosion keeps saying a report will be given. We are still waiting for the report of his colleagues who went to benchmark for days in Cairo during AFCON.
Let alone the World Cup in Russia. We saw benchmarking photos on social media. Okay, let's take a look at your feedback.
See what you're saying on 22422 is the SMS line and on Twitter as well.
Okay, Simiyu Hastings. Nigeria has sent 20 representatives with a population of over 200 million. Kenya has sent more than 80 with a population of about 50 million. But Sosion sees no problem. Waweru Mboro said, bunge letu limejaa fisi, wamevaa ngozi ya kondoo. Rest in peace, Waweru. Wow, okay.
See what you're saying.
Veteran broadcaster there, Waweru Mboro, being quoted, the late.
SMS 22422. Sir Nixon is from Kindaruma says spending money should be purposeful and meaningful in terms of development. Why would they travel to sample country music instead of strengthening our very own Oangla or even Mogidi or Mukangala?
Well, to be fair, the musician on the front cover is a keynote speaker.
Yeah.
It's a keynote speaker. So I don't know if she will perform after that.
They say there's a program including sampling of country.
Oh, sampling. Oh, there is. Okay. Well, we'll seek to get finer details. Let's take a break. But Trevor, this is not what we were to discuss today.
No, not at all. In fact, what we're supposed to discuss today is part of the front page of the Daily Nation.
Yes.
But up there, lack of clarity Mars grade 3 national assessment. And also on page 11, the story continues a glimpse into what CBC means for young learners. So schools closed for August holidays last week. More than 1.3 million grade 3 learners did not take home the traditional report forms their parents and guardians are used to. We'll find out whether the CBC works. We'd also like to know from you whether you understand the CBC and whether you support it and what the issues are with what you've seen so far. We'll be back in just a bit.